Hello and welcome to Sounding Board, a community access television production of Seroptimus International of Novato. My name is Madeline Peters and I will be interviewing this lovely woman here, Kyleigh Hoye. But before we begin our interview, just a little bit about Seroptimus. Seroptimus International is an international organization whose goal is advancing the status of women and girls, both locally and internationally. Again, tonight's guest is Kyleigh Hoye, and I'll give her a little bit of background, and then I'm going to start the interview with her and have Kyleigh introduce herself and her background a little bit more. Kyleigh is a very, very vivacious senior at Novato High School, very active in community events and in the theater, and her topic is going to be on teen depression, eliminating the stigma of depression and giving teens an opportunity to really reach out for resources to help them. So Kyleigh, thank you very much for taking the time. I know your schedule is very busy.
Yeah.
Taking the time to be here. Could you give us a little bit of background about you personally, and then, you know, your connection to this platform of yours on really kind of helping teens combat the stigma around depression?
Of course. All right. So I am Kyleigh Hoye, and I go to Marin School of the Arts at Novato High. The Arts is a separate program where you can take 2 periods for your specific elective. Mine is musical theater, and then most of the kids who also take that go to Novato High School for their academic program, and I love both so much. And how I came across this subject was basically talking to my friends. I happen to be the person who a lot of my friends come to in terms of just talking about their problems, girl problems, but I've had a lot who come up to me and talk to me about things, you know, anxiety and, natural things that come, especially with junior and senior year. And they tell me these things and they say, well, I say, well, have you told your parents about these things? Like, these problems could be a lot, better solved if somebody else in your family, somebody you trust, knew about them. They said, oh, no, I couldn't tell them that.
So they would be coming to you first, just sort of the casual, typical problems.
Yes.
But then they saw something in you where they could kind of reveal a little bit more about some of the more profound issues. And that was that they were facing. And it was at that point, that's when you started figuring out, okay, how can I help these people? How can I help these people find ways to help themselves?
Mm-hmm. So I started looking on Facebook, and I saw this speech by this very articulate high school student. I think he just graduated, named Kevin Briel. And this guy was the jock, theater, totally, everybody loved him. He was, the guy with the seemingly perfect life. And this entire speech was about how he struggled with horrible depression and how not a single one of his friends knew about it. And for a long time, how he had to deal with this himself. And his main point was that he thinks a lot of kids could get a lot of help with this if they had an opportunity to talk about it. And so what I think I was inspired by his speech is that, well, if I could get in the same kind of platform as him, if I could find a way to, in a public setting such as this, talk about how we can kind of make that stigma against depression a little less and make it less taboo. So one of my ideas for kind of not solving it, but there's a lot of clubs. I looked at Club Rush on my high school, and one of them was called the Suicidal Thoughts Club, and I said,
The Suicidal Thoughts
Club? Suicidal Thoughts Club, and they had cookies and everything, and I'm like, wow, that's, that's...
But it's rather,
it takes you back. You're like, should I sign up? But what I realized what they were getting at. And obviously, maybe a calmer name would attract more members. But
well, and also you want to build something that's where people feel comfortable participating.
Where people feel comfortable,
and they're not stigmatized because they're going to the suicidal
Yeah.
thought club.
Exactly. So, I mean, in high school, I was thinking about talking to my principal about making a support group for this, because I really like what Alcoholic Anonymous was doing, how there was a space where people could come and openly talk about, like, I've been sober for 2 years, or I've struggled this way, I've relapsed this many times, and there's people around them who understand, and there's no judgment, because they're all going through the same thing. I feel like if there's an adult psychiatrist, and not somebody who's kind of standoffish, somebody who really likes working with kids and really gets them, could kind of start one of those support groups within either community or high school, that would be like the perfect way to start combating this kind of stigma. Because what a lot of people don't think about depression is that they view it as almost not real. Like a phase, puberty, some hormones is like, oh, there's a phase. There are mood swings. Kids will get over it. Depression is when you're sad, when everything in your life is going great.
Pervasive sadness.
Yes, yeah. And there's obviously the extreme sadness after a lost loved one or something like that. But prolonged depression when everything's fine is what needs help.
And that's what you've been able to discern from all of the information that you've gathered.
Exactly, and I researched. And after I saw Kevin Sbriel's speech, I started looking up on YouTube, and there are all these people who are talking about how so many people have told me, like, just be happier, and it's a chemical glossing it over.
Yeah.
And it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, whether it's brought out by hormones or and it also can be very genetic. Very genetic. I've had a couple friends who just have it was in their family, their lineage,
their family history, right?
And they had great lives, and there's nothing much they can do about that.
Well, and the big thing that you're doing is obviously you educated yourself, and then building community support, almost so that creating a safe environment so that your teens can come and talk about it, not only to unburden themselves and connect with others, but I can imagine you're building a community where these people everyone ends up supporting each other.
It's a big web. And the one thing I was thinking about, it's like I can come up here and talk about eliminating the stigma all I want. It's like, what's that going to do? So I started thinking about what are other ways I could get this out there rather than posting a YouTube video or doing this TV show. And my mom mentioned a scholarship opportunity to me, the Miss Marin pageant, and I heard the word name pageant, and I just thought of Miss Congeniality, and I thought, oh, that's not my thing. I can't walk in heels. And she said, no, it's a scholarship opportunity, and she told me I needed a platform. And I said, what's a platform? And she said, well, it's an issue that you would like to bring awareness to. A lot of people do World Hunger and awareness of abusive parents. And I started thinking about that, and I realized that the pageant itself didn't have to be just this beauty, oriented thing because it was a scholarship opportunity. It could be a real opportunity for raising awareness about this, because I was so affected by this guy's speech, and I knew what he was doing. I think it was a convention for teens. What he was doing is exactly what I was trying to do, which was just get it out there. And my dream pretty much is to have a group of people sitting around and putting depression, like, oh, I had cancer once, feeling like, oh, I feel you. I had leukemia, a type of cancer, obviously, and then I had depression. Just putting it in the same thing, because it's a sickness. It's not just a phase, and once people realize that, they won't be afraid of, talking about it. Because once they do, I've seen so many of my friends, once they let those kind of problems out into the light, the whole size of the problem just diminishes. Because on the inside, it can get as big as you want, but once you're sharing the burden and the shame of it, there's no shame. It decreases because there's people around you.
So that diminishes it. It sort of contains the problem a little bit more in it, and it also, I think it's a way that it seems to me that these people are stepping out of themselves and asking for help. Again, in a safe setting, because in talking about something that's an important issue for you, you're also looking for help. You're looking for other people that can shed some light, perhaps, or share their story and mitigate the pain.
And I myself, I had a bunch of anxiety, some compulsive actions in my junior year. A lot of stress, a lot of homework, but it's just kind of natural. And when I would talk about it to my friends or my mom, something that always helped me was using humor to kind of shrink down the problems, because as soon as you realize how ridiculous you're being, like, my midterm is the biggest thing in my life. It's like if I get a C, then my future is still awaiting. So especially when my friends would talk to me like, I'm so stressed. Especially I have a lot of junior friends. I'm just open arms, like, tell me all about your problems with getting your homework done, because I can first of all, I can help you get tips on how to make sure you're not doing all-nighters, because all those all-nighters will make your stress levels increase like no one's business. And also just kind of making a joke about it, being like, it's a problem, but it's not the end of the world,
right?
Which is how a lot of teens deal with problems.
So what I'm seeing is you've talked about establishing your platform, so being the spokesperson for it. You've also talked about just your natural connections with high school students, with people who they know what your platform is, so they come to you to discuss what's going on for them, and you're acting as a catalyst to then give them tips or maybe redirect them. So it's almost as though you're personalizing the kind of thing that you want to see happen, like what your legacy may be when you leave high school, that something is formed and does continue. But right now, you're sort of living and breathing it within your setting. And certainly by being here on television and being as open as you are and talking about the ramifications of the problem and the number of people who are affected by this, you are creating a format. You're creating the idea in the community that, hello folks, this happens. Let's look at some positive ways to address it. And certainly, the forum where people are talking and you're adding humor to it, and the concept of taking a large problem and kind of shaping it into something that's maybe not so overwhelming and not so damaging. Those are marvelous things that you're doing.
And I knew you were a big supporter of the Seroptimist movement, and I looked up depression in teens, and something I didn't know is that girls are more prone to having this.
Sure.
Made a lot of sense. I mean, we do have a lot of things to deal with, but I thought about, like, both genders, obviously, it appeals to them, but something I was thinking about within my theater group, they are not very introverted when it comes to their emotions.
I can't imagine a theater group being introverted.
If there's an emotion, and so what we do is that we already have those kind of forums set up, because we're obviously a family, a dysfunctional family, but a functional family and a loving family. And every so often we do have forums. We pretty much sit in circles, all of the girls, and we talk about our feelings. And it's fantastic. Everybody loves each other's not crying, but that kind of feeling is, I walked out of there and I just saw every one of my friends' faces, and they just looked so much happier, even relaxed,
unburdened.
And they were talking about anything, college applications, the stress of getting their auditions done for New York University, Pace University, because going the entertainment route in itself is just a terrifying thing.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
Yes. And so once they got those things out there, it made them feel so much better. And a lot of people I know go to therapy. And so since they all talk about therapy, it doesn't have the stigma that therapy used to have. When I was younger, I thought therapy were for people who had serious issues. And obviously it is, but serious issues, you have to realize that there's a lot of serious issues. There's anxiety and depression, but sometimes the serious issues are also common issues, very typical issues, especially in teens. Even my research has said one of the leading causes of disability between, I think it was ages 15 and 44, is depression.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's not a rare curse that a few people have. It's a very, prevalent thing. And so that kind of forum with my theater group, I just realized how much that could help them, and how much that community of, especially us girls, the guys like talking about their feelings too, not as much, was really helpful for our whole cohesiveness.
So what I'm seeing you do is, obviously you've got your platform, you've got all of these different things that you've experienced, hearing this person speak, doing your own research, your theater group, and the opportunity to discuss emotions, and then kind of operationalizing that, putting that into something that you then perhaps take back to your school setting or become involved in kind of promoting, okay, what are we going to do to deal about this? What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see happen in your school?
In my school, like I said, almost like a club. It doesn't even need to be a club. It could be an after school, half an hour thing. I wanted to start a yoga, eat chocolate, and talk club.
I like the title.
Yeah, it's a little bit very feminine club, but it's what a lot of girls need. And what I was thinking, even just outside my school, what I was thinking about is, I would talk this over with my mom, is how at medical exams, when I go to my, everybody gets theirs every 6 months or a year, medical exams, they get the throat and the knee thing, and then the parents leave, and the doctor sits down with the student or the patient and says, "Oh, open up to me because I'm a stranger," and it's true. And they say, "Oh, are you involved with drugs?" And then they're like, "Oh, how are you? Like, how's your mental activity?" And there's very few kids who will open up and say, "Oh, I've actually been having trouble with my anxiety, or I've been extremely depressed lately." Like, they're gonna lie to these people. They don't know them.
Right.
And so what we were discussing is that you could have your medical, your physical, make sure everything's working right, and then have a separate, really, have a separate psychiatrist kind of thing, where you have a person that you trust, that you've had several appointments with, and have that be complementary to the medical exam, because especially, like I said, especially in the kids in the critical ages between childhood and adulthood, that's when they probably need the most help. Obviously, some people get through all of that time without having much problems mentally. There's a lot of kids who would really need that extra source of trust.
And you could imagine too that if there were opportunities for students to really talk about their feelings, it would help them in so many ways. It would help them in their interpersonal relationships, would help them feel better about themselves, perhaps be a little bit more adventurous. You can imagine, being troubled by anxiety or depression or anything, your feelings can be very limiting. And so having those interventions or those opportunities can help kind of push people along a little further if they felt more comfortable and more secure.
Yeah, especially, yeah, definitely. And I've had friends who they'll tell me their problems, and I'll be like, "Oh, have you told anybody else?" And they say, "No, I couldn't tell my parents." And then I meet the person, I think about it, and with me and with my parents and I, we have a very open relationship, and I tell them everything that's going on in my life. And with some kids, I look at their relationship and they're like, "Oh no, I never tell my parents about anything." And this isn't just like things they do wrong or they shouldn't do. It's about their emotions and feelings. They talk to their friends, and if their friends aren't enough help, they say, "Okay, well, I have to deal with this myself." And
that's if they're fortunate enough to have friends who understand how to listen.
Exactly. And especially with guys who don't have supportive parents, it's very hard, unless they're theater guys, to say, "Bro, I've been very anxious." And so just the psychiatrist, like the school psychiatrist, I don't think a lot of people know we have a psychiatrist, but it's a great resource. I'm actually going to have a meeting with them pretty soon, because if they don't have that source at home, or they don't have that source with their friends, like, where are they going to go to deal with these problems? And that's where a lot of the problems start. So if they had the club or the psychiatrist or just somebody they trust. We have counselors, but that's mostly for college stuff. It's three people.
Right.
Divided among 1,500 students.
I know, that's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is taking your idea, your platform, your research, your experience, your experience in talking with your friends, your experience in talking with your family, your theater group and the experiences there, and then kind of connecting it back to the school end and looking at what how you can operationalize this, or what can you do. So a connection with the school psychiatrist or psychologist, and then what are your next steps? Then what do you want to see happen out of that?
All right. Besides the club or forum, I'm not sure how effective this would be, but I actually saw a lot of change. When we had this survey that we are given every year. Our Novato High School is very stringent on the no bullying policy. I've never seen bullying. It is there, but I've seen it in a lot less frequency than other schools. And we had this survey, and apparently they got some results on this anonymous survey that it was apparent in our school. And the faculty got together and they realized this is not what we want. We spend so much time and effort into making sure this is not. So what they did is that they had a woman come in, a very experienced public speaker, and talked about bullying and how to deal with it. And again, she used humor to talk about how to deal with these bullies, not fighting back, obviously, but you just making
like a very comfortable way.
A comfortable way. We liked her within the first 5 minutes. There's some people that talk to the high school and say you shouldn't do this, and we're like, we know, we're told that every day. We took health class, but the second she was on our level, she'd been to high school and she wasn't extremely old, and the second we felt like we could be comfortable with her, we started listening to what she had to say. Even the bullies were probably listening to what she had to say, and so. If I do start a club or forum, I think what would be really great if we brought somebody in who maybe a public speaker, because the charismatic ones are always the ones the kids like and talk about for the next couple of weeks on Facebook. If we had a really charismatic person, maybe who even had close family members with depression or they themselves had depression, that would just be the start, because the whole thing we're trying to do is change a stigma, and that's a really kind of ambiguous, kind of abstract thing to do. But with the public speaking and the people, especially like somebody well-known who talks about that, I think that would just be a fantastic thing for the kids who are sitting at home and don't know how to deal with it.
Well, and again, what you're doing is setting up a model. At least you have in your mind, you have a model of what are the kinds of things that would really be effective, catch people's attention. Now, obviously, your involvement in theater, you understand the need for someone to be charismatic, to be articulate. You understand the importance of humor. You understand the importance of connecting with the audience, whatever that audience is, to kind of establish, well, yes, we're taking this seriously, but we're also doing it in a proactive way that bridges the gap between the audience and the speaker. So I think of that as a very positive, productive start, and then looking at ways to kind of flesh that out. So you have your guest speaker there, and then the other kinds of things, what are the other kinds of things that you see falling into place after that? That's the flashy start.
Yeah, the flashy, the initiation. Within the club, what are the ways I was going to incorporate, the humor along with the forum was the kind of the humorous name I had, because obviously, I love what the Suicidal Thoughts Club is doing. It scares me a bit, but it's there, and I love, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, but having a different name for it, like the Yoga Nappy Chocolate. Like, first of all, chocolate, and kids, run to that, especially if it's free. And a lot of kids, the biggest complaint I hear about from my friends is not about homework load during year, it's not about teachers, it's about sleep. And how they don't get enough of it. And I've seen the effects on them, and definitely myself, because I'm a night owl and it's hard for me to get a lot of sleep. And their school performance goes down, their mood goes down, it's more difficult to be around them. And why NAP was in the name of the club was to, if they needed a power nap for a test, then that'd be a great opportunity for to do that, but also to emphasize the importance of it and be like, how much sleep did you guys get? Be a funny way, but.
Well, then I think it's interesting as I think about the things that you've said since we began our discussion, you've obviously put your finger on something very important. It's made a difference to you for several reasons. The people who come to you to unburden themselves to you, this person that was a speaker, and then just kind of looking at, to me, what I see that you've done is you've gathered the information and brought your person. You definitely bring your personality to this, which is a huge asset. Your vivaciousness, your articulateness. You're in theater for a reason. You are extremely articulate. So having you as a spokesperson, the catalyst for this is extremely important. And then in bringing awareness and creating a seriousness around this, but in your own sort of personal engaging way. But then also the other idea that I hear is just you're trying to figure out ways to formalize it so that this is your last year in high school. What's going to happen when you're not here anymore? How can we institutionalize this kind of help and support to continue erasing or eliminating the stigma for teens to talk about depression? And then the kinds of things that you're talking about, like the yoga chocolate
Nap.
I mean, that's just, it's innovative, it's fresh, it's charming, and it's the kind of thing that might engage people and help them feel comfortable to talk about serious problems. So to me, it seems as though you've fleshed this out rather well. Is there anything else that you and I can talk for a long time, I am sure, but what are the other things that you think you might add? Like you have this year.
I have this year.
What do you want to do?
Well, what you mentioned that I hadn't thought about is the legacy. I can start a club. It can be great for a year. I can offer kids help for a year, but after I'm gone, I don't want all the values of the club to, exit
go with you.
Me. Yeah. So I think would be great if or when I create this forum, I could elect some leaders, some lower classmen leaders, like a junior. I'm in Key Club at my school, and every year there's an election, within the club, and the members vote on who they see as being the biggest advocate and being the most self-starter for the club. And always they're the best candidates, yes.
Yeah.
And they do great the next year, and they really put a lot of effort into it. So I feel like if I did create one of those, it would be, I'm a very good judge of character and determination and work ethic. So if I saw somebody who really had a spirit for the same thing I did, I would,
You sort of tap them on the shoulder and say,
be like,
next.
You next. And because I know somebody who, started their own class at MSA. What I love about Novato High is that there's so many opportunities to start something. You sign a form, say, I have this teacher wants to let me use this room, and I want to start this. And it works out great. One of the most popular clubs in my school is Garden Club. That somebody started and said, you get to give people gifts and you get a lot of community service, and people flooded into that club. They also had cupcakes at Club Rush, which gets a lot of sign-ups.
Food does help.
It does help. That's why chocolate is in the name. But what I was thinking, I would have never joined Garden Club if they hadn't advertised in such a fun way. So,
well, Kyleigh, this is a very, very interesting opportunity for me to talk to you, and we're out of time right now, but I really have appreciated very much your taking the time to talk to us tonight on camera and to share your thoughts and what you want your legacy to be and your platform for helping teens deal with depression. So I'm going to thank you again. I'm going to close with just letting people know this is Seroptimus International Sounding Board. Our topic tonight has been eliminating the stigma of depression in teens. Our guest is Kyleigh Hoye. My name is Madeline Peters, and I want to thank the members of Seroptimus International of Novato for serving as volunteer crew members, and for the members of Novato Public Access Television. Thank you very much.